I found one person who got approved for a $20,000 SoFi personal loan at 8.5% APR over 4 years with no docs required. For many of you, the real win isn't just consolidating the debt, it's logging into your MyFICO or Experian app, seeing those cards paid off, and then watching your score jump like 100 plus points because your utilization finally hit 0%. And soon, I'm gonna show you a borrower on just $54,000 a year walked away with not one but two SoFi approvals totaling $65,000 in only 3 months, while someone with an almost perfect 817 FICO score was denied, and the 4 red flags that you must know before applying that can flip your approval into a denial or completely stall your funding for weeks. Now, if you ever try shopping for personal loans, you know how frustrating it can be because, well, most websites are only going to show you the lenders that pay them commissions, which means you're missing a huge part of the market. That's why I put together something brand new, a list of 20 plus personal loan lenders that you can get pre-approved for without a hard credit pull. And it's hard to find this all in one place because most of the internet hides the lenders that don't pay them. But that's exactly why this list is so valuable, and I'll leave a link to that below so you can check it out for free. Now, here's the part that nobody tells you: the real loan amounts that SoFi borrowers are walking away with. Most people think that SoFi is just going to hand you 6 figures, but in reality, the sweet spot is way lower than that. So I'm seeing approval ranges. On one hand, I've seen someone with a 784 FICO walk away with just $20,000 at 8.5% APR. And on the other hand, a borrower nearly fell out of their chair when SoFi approved them for $90,000. Now, the catch is that $90,000 loan later slipped back into review status, and that's really proof that big approvals aren't always a done deal. And yes, SoFi advertises they go up to $100,000, but real world data points suggest that it's more of a best case scenario than something that you should bank on. Most people fall into the $20,000 to $40,000 sweet spot. And that's really the comfort zone where SoFi seems to say, we trust you, but we're not betting the farm on you. It's enough to consolidate credit cards and wipe out high interest personal loans or give yourself a meaningful financial reset without overextending. Now, on the rate side, the floor I've seen is 8.5% APR, and that's usually going to those with perfect credit files and strong income to debt ratios. On the other end, a subscriber of mine was offered a 13.5% interest rate on their very first SoFi loan. That's not outrageous compared to credit cards charging, 25 to 30%, but it shows that SoFi doesn't always roll out the red carpet with the lowest possible rate. They'll price based on how much risk they feel that they're taking on with you. As far as loan terms go, the most common setups are 36 months, which is 3 years, all the way up to 48 months, which is 4 years. These terms, I would say, keep the monthly payment within reach while still letting you knock out debt in a reasonable time frame. Now, yes, SoFi technically offers longer terms like 60 to 84 months, but those didn't show up in any of the borrower reports I reviewed. And honestly, a shorter term can be a blessing. You pay less in interest over the life of the loan and you're free from debt faster. Now, we've all seen lenders talk a big game, but here's what SoFi themselves are putting in writing, and it's worth knowing before you apply. First, loan amounts range from $5,000 all the way up to $100,000. The average funded loan was $33,000, and the average funded interest rate was 14.9%, and that was for a 5-year term loan. They market same-day funding and claim that 83% of loans are funded in the same day, and that was between 2023 and 2024. And they don't have any origination fee, no late or prepayment fees. And their interest rate range is from 8.99% to 35.49% right now. Now, they do have discounts on their interest rate. So you can get a 0.25% auto pay discount, or you can get a 0.25% direct deposit discount with SoFi Plus, and you can get an extra 0.25% off if you use direct pay and then pay your creditors directly. Now, moving on, one person was actually able to get back-to-back SoFi loan approvals. So it was 2 loans, 3 months, and 65K in approvals. So here's how Kevin pulled it off with SoFi. So Kevin's situation was okay, but not flawless. Exactly the kind of profile that many of you can relate to. He earned a modest, $54,000 per year income. His FICO averaged at 743. That's respectable, but not elite. His credit history carried some baggage too. He had 2 late payments, but those were aged over 5 years old. Far enough in the rearview mirror that lenders might give him a pass. His revolving utilization was basically spotless at 1%. He wasn't shy about applying either. He already had a fresh $25,000 SoFi loan on the books and had opened a new credit card just a month before. Now, from the outside looking in, most people would have said, don't even bother. It's too soon. It's too much. But here's what happened. So Kevin stumbled onto a Credit Karma guarantee offer, a pre-approval for $40,000 at 11.5%. He was skeptical and he clicked through, half kind of expecting the rug to be pulled out once SoFi saw his file. But the SoFi soft pull matched the exact same terms. And that was enough for Kevin to roll the dice. He applied, signed docs, and waited for the other shoe to drop. But it never did. SoFi came back with a green light, approved the same day, no extra docs required. And Kevin even confessed he was skeptical. He said, I didn't think they'd approve me again so soon. But when that approval came through, the feeling wasn't just relief, it was validation. Here was a bank saying, we trust you. We'll give you another shot at it. And you know what? Here's where it gets wild. SoFi didn't just approve him. They gave him $40,000. That's nearly 75% of his annual income, by the way. Even better, his rate improved. His first loan was $25K at 13.5%, but then that new second loan was $40K at 11.5% just 3 months later. So Kevin was smart and used the funds strategically. First, he paid off the old $25K loan with that, with the higher interest rate, and then he put the rest into the stock market, turning debt consolidation into kind of a real shot at building wealth. I would say that Kevin's story shows that SoFi can play by a different set of rules than traditional banks. Modest income, old late payments, a recent loan already on the books. None of that stopped him from not only getting approved again, but also at a better rate and a bigger amount. When most people think about, getting approved for a personal loan, they zoom in on one number, their credit score. And while SoFi certainly cares about your FICO, no, they definitely do. The stories I've seen prove that score alone isn't the whole game. The almost perfect credit score that didn't translate to a big loan. One person with a 784 FICO score, nearly spotless credit, only got approved for 20K. That's less than half of what Kevin got with a 743 FICO score. I would say this is an example of a reminder that SoFi doesn't just reward the highest number credit score. They're looking at your full credit report. I mean, your income, debt to income ratio, repayment history, and even how you bank with them. And here's one that really throws everyone off. Imagine having an 817 FICO score, a number kind of so high most people dream about it. You apply fully expecting a blank check and you get denied. That's exactly what happened to someone. Now, the reason was SoFi flagged them for revolving balances too high and couldn't verify their income. So it didn't matter that their score was elite. Without supporting factors, the application just fell through. And this proves that perfection on paper isn't a guarantee in practice. Now, one of the biggest questions people ask before applying for a personal loan is how fast will you actually see the money? Well, some people see the money hit their account almost instantly, sometimes that very night. Now, while others would get stuck in a holding pattern, bouncing back and forth in confusion for over a week. My own subscriber, Kevin, had one of those unicorn moments. He was approved the same day, no documents asked for. And that's a very typical marketing promise. But most people fall into the 1 to 3 business day window. You apply, you sign, and by the time the weekend's over, the money is in your account. Now, that's still fast in the lending world and for someone staring at high interest credit card debt. Those couple of days can feel like the longest wait of your life. But realistically, this is SoFi's sweet spot, so it's not instant. Then there are people who find themselves refreshing their inbox like it's the tracking page for an Amazon order. One person reported 7 full business days stuck in review, followed by another 3 days before the funds actually showed up. That's nearly 2 weeks of wondering if the approval was real or if the whole thing was about to collapse. The stress isn't just the wait, it's uncertainty. People start asking themselves, should I apply somewhere else? Did I mess something up? This is a really good point to talk about what actually causes delays. And the stories line up around a few reoccurring themes. First, self-employed applicants often get hit with requests for Schedule Cs, tax returns, or multiple bank statements. And then bank verification through Plaid sometimes fails. When that happens, SoFi asks for manual proof like a voided check or bank verification letters, and that really slows things down. And then there's direct payoffs to multiple creditors that can gum up the process compared to a simple lump sum deposit into your checking account. Having your paycheck already direct deposited into SoFi. Several people noticed this helps speed things up, making the system trust them faster and pushing approvals through with fewer hiccups. And then there comes the red flags. I spoke about this earlier. And that sinking feeling when you think something's locked in, only to have it ripped away. That's exactly what a few SoFi borrowers experienced. More than one person has shared the same gut-wrenching story that they got the email or app notification that said, "You're approved." And then they felt a rush of excitement. They hit apply, and then boom, denied after the hard pull. I kind of think about it like being invited to a party, dressing up, showing up at the door, and then the bouncer tells you that you're not even on the list after all. The disappointment stings, but worse, it leaves that hard inquiry on your credit report. Also, for some, the approval isn't the hard part, it's the hoops that SoFi asks you to jump through afterwards. So, borrowers have been asked to upload bank statements multiple times, track down voided checks, or even request these special letters from their bank just to prove that they own their account. So imagine trying to get a busy bank branch manager to write a letter while your application sits in limbo. For people who thought SoFi would be a smooth, kind of app-based process, this part ends up being the biggest headache. Also, a few people experience something that's almost worse than a straight-up denial, the yo-yo effect, I like to call it. So you're approved one day, and then their application mysteriously flips back to in review. No explanation, no clear path forward, just radio silence until customer service gets involved. It's like having the rug pulled out from under you after you've already started planning how you're going to use the money. And then there's the opposite problem. SoFi sometimes moves so fast that borrowers don't stop to think. One person shared that they signed, got funded almost instantly, and then they wished that they had more time to consider whether this loan was the right move for them. For some people, that speed can actually feel like pressure. So I want you to remember that you do have a choice to accept the offer or not. But waiting too long can carry risks. Lenders can change their credit worthiness criteria, adjust how they rank you internally, or even deprioritize your file if you sit on an offer. There was that one borrower who locked in that $20,000 loan at 8.5% rate just 2 months ago. But today, the lowest advertised rate is 8.99%. That's how quickly things can shift and why acting fast often works in your favor. And I've seen evidence of approvals shifting to denials when borrowers hesitate. That's why if you're going to move forward, acting quickly is usually the smartest play. The clock really starts ticking the moment the offer lands, and some people fold under that pressure. We've all been there, second guessing a big money decision after things are already in motion. I'd say part of the reason is that there's so many personal loan options out there, and that's easy to wonder if you've picked the right one. For example, people are getting approved for upstart personal loans with FICO scores in the 500s, and one person got an $8,000 loan at a 5.52% interest rate. That's nuts. So check out this video next to learn how they got approved and the odd little document Upstart might randomly ask you for during your application. Thank you for watching.